This episode of the Feed Podcast is brought to you by the Chicago French Market. The market offers fresh ingredients for cooking at home, delicious grab-and-go options for any meal of the day, or even a simple picnic or office party.
The Chicago French Market, a taste of Europe in the heart of the Midwest.
This episode of the Feed Podcast is brought to you by Oscar's Mexican Seafood. With 5 locations throughout the San Diego area, Oscar's focuses on Baja-style fish tacos, fresh ceviches, and hearty seafood burritos.
And all their salsas and agua frescas made on site every day. They'll even cater. For more information, oscarsmexicanseafood.com.
The Feed Podcast is brought to you in part by United Healthcare. A lot of people think insurance companies are all the same, if they think of them at all.
Oh, I think of them all the time when I'm paying my bills.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. When you pay that check every month.
The copay also, that's kind of annoying.
It is.
But United Healthcare is different. They offer a range of unique programs, things like Real Appeal, a weight loss program for a full year at no additional cost to your employees. And how does a $0 copay sound?
Fabulous.
That sounds really good.
Amazing.
I'm paying like $25 right now. If you see your primary care physician, that could be an option too. More information, go to uhc.com/benefits.
You're listening to The Feed Podcast. Get the inside scoop by following us on Twitter at The Feed Podcast.
Well, we get so used to recording in our test kitchen, Rick's test kitchen every week, and I got to say, a little unsettling to see all these people here watching us right now.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. You like this because you're Mr. Musical Theater.
I love a live audience.
You do love it. It's electric. I'm not, we're always in this library and it's quiet.
It is.
And it's just the two of us and
boring,
Matt, our editor. This is great. Okay, so they're all eating guac. Just in case it was a fail show, we knew we'd feed them. They could cut us some slack. So they're eating guac right now. And while they're eating guac, give us a little Bayless Insights. So tips.
The best guacamole is simple, okay? All those recipes that put all those crazy ingredients in there, don't follow them. The best guacamole is you get ripe avocados, you mash them, but coarsely mash them. Otherwise, people will think you got your guacamole from Trader Joe's or something. So you coarsely mash them. You season them with salt and just a touch of lime. Okay, then you add the 4 ingredients that you would put in a chopped tomato salsa: tomatoes, onions, cilantro, green chili. Done. You are done. Tomatoes add sweetness. Onions add fresh crunch. Cilantro, of course, is herby, and the green chili adds a little spice. That's all you need. Don't mess it up.
Yeah, or just buy the little packet you guys sell in the store and add it to fresh avocado.
Thing, of course.
Right.
And then also buy my book on guacamoles.
And to
you really don't need a recipe, but please buy that book.
And to drink beer, cerveza, michelada, vermouth. I mean, what would you think?
I don't know. What vermouth?
Well, we've been talking about vermouth.
An interesting thing.
We've been talking about Spanish vermouth on the show so much.
So maybe a white vermouth would be good with that. I don't know. I think the classic thing that most people think about is margaritas. Again, classic, straightforward margaritas made from fresh lime juice. I think that's a perfect way to balance it out.
Yeah.
But beer's good. A good Sauvignon Blanc is good with it as well. I mean, I think, we always say that avocados are one of the friendliest flavors out there. So they will just match up with pretty much everything.
You've been doing this for 30 years at Frontier here in Chicago. There's been a lot of love for Chicago lately. Bon Appetit just named it Best Restaurant City in the country this last month. Yeah. Condé Nast loves us. The Beard Awards are here every year until God knows when. We could have gone fine dining today. We could have easily talked about Grace and Alinea and Next and Oriole and Smith. But we're going to and Topolobampo, absolutely, yeah.
He's always forgetting.
That's all right. But we're going to tackle kind of the more everyman stuff today. I think we're going to talk a little bit sort of hearty, gut filling, because Chicago has that dichotomy, right? We got the high end and the low end and everything in between.
Yep. Yeah. It's the reason it's such a great city.
Love eating here. Okay, coming up on today's show, we are kicking off the Chicago Podcast Festival in front of, you guessed it, a live audience as we welcome 3 special guests representing various aspects of our local dining scene, from barbecue to sausage and even to politics, or rather the job of promoting Chicago to the rest of the world. Stay with us. We promise no deep dish, only a conversation about food, second to none. This is the Feed Podcast. I'm Steve Dolinsky, a food and travel reporter at ABC 7 News, the Chicago Tribune, and Canada's Globe and Mail.
And I'm Rick Bayless, the chef and owner of Chicago's Frontera Grill, Topolobampo, Xoco, Leña Brava, and host of public television's Mexico, one plate at a time.
And every week, the Feed takes a deep dive into the world of professional chefs, restaurateurs, food artisans, and drink experts, sharing their stories and uncovering their passion for food and drink. But that's not all. Rick and I are always traveling the globe for our jobs, eating, drinking, and immersing ourselves in the local culture. And if we find something exciting along the way, you can be sure it's going to find its way here to our James Beard Award-winning podcast. Well, we are really excited to be kicking off the second annual Chicago Podcast Fest this week. We are here at Beat Kitchen in Roscoe Village with an audience of, dozens. Give yourselves a hand for being here.
I think it looks like hundreds myself.
Might be hundreds.
Hundreds of people.
That's a big Chicago welcome. And before we welcome our first guest, let's talk a little bit of current events here. Lots of openings and closings in Chicago. We've talked about Haisu. We love Tai Dang down in Pilsen. That's my favorite new restaurant.
He's an amazing chef, and I love the casual feel of the restaurant. It's in Pilsen. It's in a place that, for me, is super comfortable because I love that neighborhood, but then now it's become diversified.
Because it's 2 doors from Carnitas Don Pedro,
it
which
is.
you love. Yeah.
That's what I actually feel really comfortable, 2 doors from Don Pedro.
Lee Woolen from Boca just opened up Somerset in the Viceroy Hotel.
Right.
That is also fantastic.
I can't wait to go. I've seen pictures of it, seen the food online, and I just think it looks like it's going to be a real hit because Lee's a great chef.
Bonchi just opened up here from Rome.
Yeah.
First location they chose outside of Rome was in Chicago for their pizza.
On a side street
With
in
nothing.
about 500 square feet, it looks like. I don't know. I can't even get through the door. And it's just around the corner from our restaurant, Leña Brava. And I keep going by there and thinking, one of these days there won't be a huge line out the door, but I haven't seen it yet.
It's pizza al taglio, which is pizza in the pan.
Yes.
And it's like a 2-day fermented dough, so it's got a lot more air pockets, a lot of open crumb structure, really beautiful dough. You would love that.
Well, I ate it in Rome.
You did? Okay.
I loved it there, and I can't wait to let the crowds move away so I can go back.
And like any great food town, we've got closings too. So you've got expansion, contraction.
Yeah.
Vera closed, a Spanish restaurant in the West Loop. Ruxpin recently closed, which was kind of sad.
That
It was very surprising.
Really,
they had a little trouble.
Very chef-driven restaurant, and I was really sad to see that one go.
It was chef-driven, but they had a problem with identity. They kept changing the format every year or so. I thought was an issue. Paramount Room closed after a decade.
Yep.
And then Trench, in our neighborhood where we live in Bucktown, after 8 months, just decided
but
they're
it was
closing.
Trencherman before, and then it had a lot of changes, and that sort of didn't surprise me because I thought, again, it lacked a bit of identity when they reopened it as Trench.
Yeah.
And I don't know. The neighborhood has got so many great restaurants that you have to compete at a high level.
Public and Anchors there, yeah.
Yep.
All right, well, ironically enough, today, we're taping this October 3rd. This show launches or runs, I guess, or drops, so they call it October 5th. But October 3rd marks the 3-year anniversary since another beloved restaurant here in Chicago closed, Hot Doug's.
Yes.
Exactly 3 years ago today was the last day. But that closing was, of course, the owner's decision and his choice, not because business was bad. Lines were down the block every day for like 4-hour waits.
Especially when they announced they were going to close.
Especially when they announced, like Berghoff, right? Like lines all of a sudden appear out of nowhere.
Right.
But this wouldn't be a show about Chicago if we didn't cover the topic of sausage.
Yep.
So joining us now in our first segment, the founder, proprietor, Grand Poobah, and now iconic encased-meats maven of Chicago, Hot Doug Sohn.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for being here. My pleasure. This man is beloved in Chicago, not just in the bleachers at Wrigley.
Thank you. As I was coming down the aisle, it was that scene in the movie The Oscar with Stephen Boyd. I was like halfway down, I was like, well, maybe it's not me.
So the origin.
This is the second time in 3 days we have shared a stage.
That's precisely right.
Yes,
exactly. People are
together
talking.
at the Harvest Fest.
That's right.
Cool.
Exactly. By the way, the guacamole demo that you did at Harvest Fest, hypnotizing. I mean, you eat guacamole and you think, oh yeah, whatever, blah blah blah. I was like, I didn't know that. Like every 30 seconds, like, I didn't know that. It was awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
so
you for
much.
teaching me.
Thank you.
So your origin story is essentially you couldn't find a great Chicago dog. You thought there must be a way to get a Chicago dog, and you just said, I'm going to open a joint and make Chicago dogs plus plus plus.
It's well, good night, everybody. That was it. That's
Come on. Why
t-
couldn't? Tell me why you think you couldn't, or why you decided you couldn't find a good Chicago dog. There's a lot of good Chicago dogs out there, aren't there?
There are a lot of okay Chicago dogs. There are a lot of places, and it's one of those foods that has this wonderful reputation. But I think this is sort of living on the reputation. And most places that did hot dogs also did hamburgers and pizza puffs and chicken breast sandwiches and Greek salads. And so the hot dog would slowly slide down the menu. And for it to be, in that scenario, for it to be profitable, you really have to cheapen it because it's a volume item.
Right.
And, my feeling after going to a number of places in Chicago, and this is how the whole thing happened, most of them were like, B-, C+. And when it's done well, I think it's fantastic.
So what is the?
And we're showing a picture of it to the audience while you're describing this, but go ahead. What is it? That's a char dog.
Exactly. I'm sorry, what was the question?
The question is, what is the perfect Chicago hot dog?
I think it's like any other dish. You use really good ingredients. You take care in preparing it, and you serve it hot and timely. And most places just, there are still places that do it really well, but for the most part, they weren't doing well. You can get bad hot dogs. You can get bad tomatoes. You can get stale buns. You can get cheap mustard. And a lot of places, that's what was going on.
Sounds like the Chicago hot dog I know.
And
They're exactly right.
And you took your culinary training and your cookbook writing, editing skills, and you said, I'm going to do more than this. And you started doing wild boar and alligator. And tell me how that all evolved.
Well, part of it is I also wanted to make a living. And kind of, it had like a big wall and it's like needed a menu. And it's like, well, there's the hot dog. And it's like, I got a lot more space to fill up. And as it just, I love sausages and new. Two things. One, either that there were a lot of sausage that were already readily available, but that, one place they may have a bratwurst, they may have an Italian sausage, they may have a Polish, but they didn't have all of them. And I also knew that there were a lot of, after traveling the world, every culture has its own sausage, and it's ubiquitous throughout the world. I just wanted to say ubiquitous on a podcast. And so I realized, we could serve all sausages and start playing around with that. And that's exactly how it started.
But would you think you would have been as successful if you hadn't done the crazy stuff? I don't mean crazy, the unexpected stuff, because a lot of the stuff that you did was just not crazy. It was just really good.
Thank you.
As you said, you were pulling from many different cultures. But do you think you would have been as successful?
I have no idea.
Yeah, well,
it's a lot
true.
of these things, like those questions, maybe.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just that. That's where it became really fun, and that's where it became the challenge, and that's where it became creative, and that's where the one of the aspects that I really enjoyed.
Well, okay, I will rephrase my stupid question, and I will say, what percentage of your sales mix was in the off the beaten path type hot dog?
It varied. Like I don't have exact numbers, but during the week it was probably 50% specials, 50% the regular menu. Weekend, probably 80-20 specials to regular menu. But the one item we sold the most of, the single item, was the Chicago hot dog.
Is that right?
And a lot of it, people would buy a special, and throw in a Chicago hot dog as well. And that was the part that I was really proud of.
Now, I heard you retired 3 years ago, but if you look at the screen up here on the wall, look at your website, there's a
stuff.
Movie, there's a book.
By the way, the website, every 18 years like clockwork, I update the website. Oh, there we go.
Like a cicada.
Yeah, exactly.
You are the cicada of Chicago.
That's right.
So you got a movie out now, The Hot Dogs, the movie,
True.
which I saw, which is great.
Thank you.
Then you're serving only in the bleachers at Wrigley, right?
Yes.
Okay, so great. They're going to have a long postseason. You're going to love this, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's really just the opportunity for me to go see baseball.
And you've also got some swag on. There's a podcast.
Sure.
There's a theme song. So you're keeping busy. You're not just sitting on your couch eating bonbons.
Well, half the time there's that, and it's not always bonbons. But yes, but no, there's still. I use the word retired from owning a restaurant. Let's put it that way.
All right, well, listen, we want to.
Wait, I remember on stage, you and Ina Pinkney were dissing the restaurant business. And I just have to say that I took issue with that.
Here we go.
I know this is not going to go well. where it really boiled down to when people say, and I'm sure people come up to you and say, I have these wonderful recipes and I really like to cook. I should open a restaurant. And those are two very different things.
They're completely different.
Absolutely.
things.
And that's really where we were talking about is like when people do that, it's like, no. And I think I amended that because I have this story where I tried to, for a little while, talk Barry Sorkin, who owns Smoked Barbecue, out of opening a restaurant. And then I quickly realized, well, that was stupid. So anybody who's open, I've got a list of restaurants I'd really for you to open in my neighborhood. So if you could, so I don't say that anymore. It's much more like really letting people know really what's involved in opening a restaurant.
Okay.
And I
agree with. I grew up in the
Absolutely.
restaurant business. My parents had a restaurant for 37 years. We're 30 years into it, had Frontera now, and I love the business, but I grew up in it as a business. I mean, I knew
Correct.
exactly what was going to be required of me when I opened a restaurant, and I willfully chose to do that.
Absolutely. Well, let me ask you this. Do you think like the restaurant business kind of makes you crazy, or it kind of attracts relatively crazy people? Because I'm still not sure. I always used to think about that like New York City is the same kind of thing.
We oftentimes call ourselves the group or our restaurant as the land of the misfit toys.
It's exactly right. Can't really do anything else.
It's like we're this is the right job for us.
They're absolutely, and thank goodness
yes,
these exist.
Exactly.
Precisely.
All right, so we're going to give away a book. Rick brought.
By the way, you could have told. I have a book. I would have brought a book.
Oh, well,
you
next
didn't tell me
time.
to bring a book. Oh, sure.
You didn't
Fancy
offer-
Mexican
yeah,
book.
you're right.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. We're going to give away a copy of More Mexican.
Mostly
every day.
they're holding my window open, but still I could pull one out. And just
Taking up
drop
room in
it
your in your garage, are they?
Yeah, a little bit. Exactly. I need to get them out of there.
Okay, so we're going to give away a copy of the book. We're going to play Know Your Sausage. Doug, you're game for this? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
By the way, that cost me $1,500 in Tijuana last month.
All right.
I
First,
have no idea what that means.
we're going to find a contestant who you're going to be playing for to win this book, okay?
Oh.
So what's the address of Hot Dogs? What was the address?
The first one or the second
Second one.
one, smarty guy? 3324 North California.
Okay, so I know that's between Belmont, which is 3200 North, and Roscoe, 3400 North, right? But
Yes.
the store was actually located on California.
Yes.
So the first person who can come to the microphone up in front and tell me how far west California is,
I know the answer.
specifically what the grid number...
That's correct.
2800, okay. And what is your name, sir?
My name is Al Dordek,
And full dis-
I'm most famous for being Steve Dolinsky's father.
He is my father-in-law. Okay. You know, when I wrote this question, Al and I have a game about the grids in Chicago, and we love to go back and forth. 4,800, 4,400. Okay, so I knew he'd get this. All right. You're playing for Al. Okay, question.
Okay.
And here, you get 4 of these questions, 4 to 5 right, he wins. All right? That's good average.
All right, that's not bad.
Okay, who is Abe Froman?
He's the Sausage King of Chicago. Hey!
A never-seen character in John Hughes' Ferris Bueller's Day Off, not known for keeping appointments. Mr. Froman has a noon reservation for a party of 3 at Chicago's Chez Quy restaurant, which Ferris attempts to steal. The snooty, or snotty, maitre d' disbelieves that young Ferris is the erstwhile Sausage King of Chicago, but is successfully deceived through a clever telephone ploy. That's correct.
I said
Okay.
that like an hour ago.
I know.
That's all right. All right.
Rick's up.
That's okay.
Okay. If I ask for a cheddar fry char dog, drag it through the garden, what am I really asking for?
A cheddar fry char dog?
There's a pause there. There's a cheddar fry.
fries. So you're
Char
getting
dog.
Okay, you're
drag
getting
it through the garden.
You're
What am I
getting
asking
cheese fries and then a char dog with the 7 ingredients that the young woman answered earlier.
Oh, but the people listening to the podcast
yeah, char
don't know
grilled
what she
dog,
said.
a dog on the char grilled on the
And they-
Okay,
on the
French
char
fries
grill.
either doused in or served with a cup of melted cheddar cheese.
Yes.
Typically from Merck's of Wisconsin, a char dog is seared on the grill rather than steamed or simply boiled, giving it a charred exterior crust. Dragging through the garden implies that you'd like all the condiments typically served on a true Chicago dog: yellow mustard, neon green relish, chopped white onions, tomato slices, pickled spear, sport peppers, and a dash of celery salt.
You were going
Did
to
I
say
get it
that,
all
right?
Oh,
You were
well,
gonna say that.
duh.
Okay.
Can I take exception with the Merck's cheddar cheese?
Oh,
part?
Oh, okay. Do.
I think real cheese fries should have that kind of Velveeta cheese whiz cheese sauce.
Oh, okay.
The
All right.
Merck's, I think, now settle down. You open a restaurant.
right.
I think meltability and I think the non-congeal aspect of the cheese whiz, like they put on the Philly cheesesteak, makes for a better cheese fry.
All right.
Doesn't it stick to your teeth? I don't know. It's just like it's,
All right, we got a time limit on the show, guys. Okay, number 3. What is the preferred?
what, we're keeping the mayor waiting or something?
Yeah. You want to? We get health inspection tonight. What is the preferred bun for any encased meat in Chicago, but specifically a Chicago dog?
It's a Marianne's poppy seed bun. Are you going to give me some hard questions here at some point?
Well, it's a Marianne's. Well, what's the company?
Rosen's. It was originally Marianne's, then certainly bought by Rosen's, but now owned by Alpha Baking.
Right. S. Rosen's was founded in Chicago in 1909 by Sam Rosen. Buns of the bakery were specifically created to handle a Chicago-style dog. They use a high-gluten formula. It creates a durability many other buns lack. Poppy seeds add a unique taste, texture, and visual balance. The buns have been baked there since 1935.
But the question is there a gluten-free version?
I don't think so.
Hopefully not.
Okay. Number 4.
If I ordered a combo sweet, hot, wet, what would I be served?
An Italian beef sandwich, which would be, you'd have sweet peppers and spicy giardiniera, and the whole sandwich would then be dunked in the jus.
But he said
that's a
combo.
Sorry, I missed the combo part. And there's a combination of Italian sausage and Italian beef.
You got it. Okay, there you go. All right.
Okay.
And that's
playing
he
for
did
your
that well.
father-in-law
All right.
here, right? This is a lot of pressure.
Last one here. Finish this sentence.
Okay.
Ketchup belongs.
Boy. Think about this. Ketchup belongs.
The folks from Heinz are here.
Is that true?
No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, whatever. Certainly nowhere near a Chicago-style hot dog.
Thank you very much. All right. Al Dordick wins a copy of Rick's book. He'll sign it for you after the show. Thanks for playing, and we want to thank you for being here.
Oh my gosh, this was awesome. Thank
We're going to give you a copy of Gaston Acurio's Peru, the cookbook.
Ooh,
beautiful book. So maybe you can do some ceviche on
I've
sausages.
never been to Romania, so thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you.
Doug Sohn, thanks for being here. Thanks for playing.
You so
Appreciate
much.
it. All right.
A pleasure. So apparently I'll see you in 2 more days.
In 2 more
Keep
days,
this
every other
perfect.
day, yeah.
All right, we're going to take a short break. Coming up, our next guest runs a pair of stores on Chicago's South Side, both of which are near and dear to Rick's heart because they specialize in 2 things, donuts and barbecue. We'll meet the owner of Dat Donut and Uncle John's Barbecue. Then later in the show, Chicago's promoter-in-chief, Mayor Rahm Emanuel, stops by for a chat. We'll be sure to save him some guac because Rick does not need the city's health inspectors showing up for a surprise inspection tonight, so stay with us.
Arrive at the meal late? Check out previous episodes, get recipes from ingredient challenges, and see behind-the-scenes pictures at thefeedpodcast.com.
Commuters have known this for some time, but over in the West Loop at the Ogilvy Transportation Center, there are more than 30 specialty vendors just waiting to feed you inside the Chicago French Market.
The market offers fresh ingredients for cooking at home, delicious grab-and-go options for any meal of the day, or even a simple picnic or office party.
Hi, Dick McCracken with Fumari Meats. We make a Montreal-style smoked pastrami that people call the best sandwich in the city. Montreal uses brisket, so it's a much richer cut of meat. It is cured, spiced, smoked, and roasted. We serve it meat and rye bread. Very simple, just mustard on the side. It's delicious.
Have you seen the lines, by the way, over at the Aloha Poke over there? And there's like the Aloha Poke, there's a line, and then there's Fumare Meats, and then there's, well, as you just heard the vendor, I mean, there's so much going on right now in that market. There's quite a lot to eat.
That's very exciting. I got to go over there and have some poke.
They've got 2 entrances, 131 North Clinton and 118 North Canal. And how about this? Covered parking is free for an hour with a $20 purchase.
Wow, that's great. They're open Monday to Saturday. You can also grab a bite and surf the internet since Wi-Fi is free. The Chicago French Market, a taste of Europe in the heart of the Midwest.
What are fish tacos? Like, how would you describe a fish taco?
My favorite fish tacos are inspired by the fish tacos in Baja. Usually there, the fish is dipped in a like tempura-like batter and fried, and then they got all these delicious toppings that go on them. It's
Crema, there's cabbage.
Crema, cabbage, hot sauce.
Avocado?
There can be avocado. Some people put them, some people don't. But I have to say, it's this stuff that dreams are made out of.
They are. I've done that trip.
Yes.
The next best thing in the U.S. is in San Diego. It's called Oscar's Mexican Seafood. They started out as a food truck in Tijuana, became a tiny shack in Pacific Beach just north of San Diego. Now they've got 5 locations in and around the city, including the latest in Encinitas. Everything's fresh, never frozen, and they make their salsas and agua frescas fresh on site each day. More information, visit oscarsmexicanseafood.com. How crazy is it to think you can actually have your insurance company pay you to walk?
What?
Yes, they're going to pay you to walk. United Healthcare isn't crazy. They just want you to be healthy.
Oh, one of their new programs is called United Healthcare Motion, where members can earn more than $1,000 a year toward their health reimbursement account or health savings account just for walking.
I didn't even know I had a health savings account or a reimbursement account, but that would be a good thing.
It would be.
How do $0 copays sound?
Absolutely fabulous.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
That's a nice advancement in society. Or pharmacy experience that offers more flexibility and less disruption.
Well, if your company works with United Healthcare, ask your friendly HR person about their programs, and if not, go tell them to switch today.
I'm going to tell mine. Call 877-233-2059 or go to uhc.com/benefits to get more information.
United Healthcare, a proud supporter of the Illinois Restaurant Association and committed to your good health.
Get the inside scoop by following us on Twitter @TheFeedPodcast.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. We're live this week in front of an audience here at Beat Kitchen in Chicago, helping kick off the 2nd annual Chicago Podcast Festival. How many people in our audience have been to Dat Donut or Uncle John's Barbecue? Wow. Okay. All right. Well, we got to get some more people down to 83rd and Cottage Grove. Our next guest runs both of those businesses at the corner of 83rd and Cottage in the Chatham neighborhood. Please give a big feed welcome to Mr. Daryl Townsend. And you brought us donuts. You brought everybody donuts here, right?
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
What'd you bring?
Like glaze and chocolate. Glaze is what we're known for in chocolate
Yes, you are.
and chocolate cake donuts.
So how long have you been there in Chatham?
23 years.
And tell me about this, how this started, because I remember old-fashioned donuts a long time ago. They were 113th in Michigan. I remember the last mayor, Daley, telling me his father used to go to that place, so that's been around a while. But that seems to have taken over in terms of the popularity on the south side.
Well, we started with, my mentor was Leon Finney Sr., who had Leon's Barbecue. And he came one day and asked, he says, hey, how about an idea of putting something in the other part of the restaurant? Said a donut shop. He said, you're crazy. I said, a donut shop, really? We was in need of another specialty type hand-cut donut shop, I felt, in the city. So we had that opportunity and started there.
Doing yeast and cake donuts?
Doing yeast and cake. Everything is done by hand.
Long before the big donut craze that's at Chicago.
Yeah,
now.
what did you think about that? All of a sudden, everybody's writing about all these donut shops on the north side, and you're like, I've been doing this for 2 decades.
Right, and the thing is that everybody has made donuts. It's the biggest fad now. It's whatever you can put on a donut now.
It
From
sure
cereal
is.
to bacon to.
Yeah. I took these pictures, by the
whatever
way,
it is.
that the audience is seeing here just this past Sunday. I drove down the way to Champaign. They just made the glaze, which are fantastic. And then they also made some, what do you call those, the Big Dat?
The Big Dat, yeah.
The Big Dat. Let's get a picture of those. I think Matt's going to forward the video here, or the picture. We can see what a Big Dat looks like. That's about the size of your head.
Right. Well, we have one of our chefs lives very near Dat Donuts, and he's bringing them in to us all the time. He only brings the big ones.
Big Dats, okay.
Yes. But I'm eating the.
And you're
small
eating the
one.
ones. So, Rick has a thing about donuts. He grew up in a barbecue family, in Oklahoma.
Eating donuts
eating
and
donuts and barbecue. Yeah. Do they always go together?
No.
How are you
today
not
they
800
did.
pounds as a kid? My God.
I don't know. I've always loved donuts, and I've always loved barbecue.
So, and how did these two come together? Because Uncle John's was somebody else. It was Max Sevier.
Exactly. And as I said, I started with Leon and did the donut shop. I've been about barbecue since I was in high school. So I also met Max Sevier through Leon Finney.
We've got a picture of him, too, on the...
At that point, later on, Mac and I got together, and he says, hey, the Leon thing went down, and it came along, and he says, hey, I got an idea with... I had bought the building from where we were at now at 83rd, and decided people were still asking for barbecue because the Leon had closed. And Mac said, hey, let's turn this into Uncle John.
He was extremely talented as a pitmaster,
Absolutely.
but didn't have any social media, didn't have any obviously publicists, didn't have an army of people out there promoting him, and it was just basically word of mouth in the neighborhood.
And he just had just a really, everybody cooks on a enclosed smoker now.
Yeah.
It's very few people that still cook on a aquarium pit where you actually turn the meat over wood over
So
fire.
explain, there's a picture of an
Yeah,
aquarium
it's-
smoker. This
it's
is
a
a
unique
very
thing. I think
southside
it's super
thing. Yeah,
cool.
it looks like an aquarium.
Right, exactly. They call it aquarium smoker, but that's actually how barbecue was originally done in Chicago many years ago. Everybody has gone to the southern part of the old hickories.
Right.
And now you're actually getting, real barbecue cooked over an open fire. Mac had also developed a great hot link.
Yes.
Wait, explain to us exactly how the aquarium smoker works or the grill works.
Aquarium smoker is that in the morning you start out, it's a brick lined pit. There's stainless steel on the outside, brick line on the inside. You normally start your fire with, some started with charcoal. We do ours strictly with oak, apple.
Yeah.
Start a fire in the morning, and from that point, once your fire heats up, the pit is lit, you go there and you start putting your meat on it.
And then you've got a grill that's over the wood, right?
Exactly.
And you can see on the left side of this picture, there's a hose. You need a hose because if that fire gets too hot, you got to tame
and
it.
it does get hot. We had an incident a year ago that we was down for 2 weeks because somebody wasn't watching the
Somebody
pit.
wasn't watching.
watching the pit.
They were eating donuts.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely next door eating donuts. or
And
whatever.
most of what we see on the south side are links, as you mentioned, and tips. Explain what rib tips are.
Rib tips is from a slab of rib. This is the brisket. They call it the brisket bone, which is basically really a Chicago thing. People around the country never really heard of rib tips.
Now, these are ribs we're seeing in the picture, just so they don't know.
Right.
But yes,
Those
there are
are-
tips.
those
also.
are ribs there.
We have to say
Yes.
these are spare ribs.
Right.
They come off the spare ribs. They don't come off the back ribs.
No, they don't come off the back ribs. They come off the spare rib, which is usually a rib that runs around 5 to 7 pounds. You take the tip off that, and it's basically just gristle, meat, and bone.
And fat.
And fat.
There's some fat there. That's
it's
what makes
fat
them
there.
so
That's
good.
what makes it good.
And you
know,
wouldn't
after
see,
cooked.
like there's a picture here which you can see the smoke ring around the outer edge of that. That doesn't mean that it's not done. It means that it's been smoked. But what you don't typically see on the south side are naked ribs. Unless you specify, they're going to be doused in sauce,
Right.
covered in white bread.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And fries.
And fries.
So what I grew up
Coleslaw.
on only naked because Oklahoma, that's where I grew up.
Oklahoma.
And where you put a dry rub on them, but you never touch them with sauce. That's always served on the side where I grew
Absolutely.
up. And so when I look at that picture, oh man, my
mouth
mouth
waters,
waters.
yeah. So you've got 2 locations for the donuts, right?
Right, 95th and the Dan Ryan, the Red Line, and our main store at 83rd and Cottage Grove in the Chatham neighborhood.
Okay. And Uncle John's, you carry on the legacy?
Yes.
Yeah.
From that
Mac
point,
passed
when,
away 2
Mac
years
passed
ago?
away 2 years ago, June 1st. And since then, the hot links are still going very, very strong.
Those are some of the best hot links I've
So,
ever
yeah,
had. They're
in Chicago.
so delicious.
Love the hot
Looking to
links.
start distributing probably sometime end of next year.
Everybody's got to go down to Chatham and check it out because it's the greatest 1-2 punch, right? It's like barbecue followed by donuts and go for a walk in Washington
Sounds
Park.
like
or something,
heaven to
right?
me.
Right there.
All right, so we want to thank you for coming here. We've got a book for you. This is from Edward Lee, Smoke and Pickles. We thought that would be appropriate for you. Recipes and stories from a new Southern kitchen.
I'd probably give them some pointers.
Give him some pointers. Daryl Townsend, thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. All right, coming up, the mayor of the great city of Chicago joins us here on stage at the Chicago Podcast Festival. We're going to talk about the city's current food scene, what's on the horizon, and another one of our audience members is going to have a chance to win another one of Rick's cookbooks. Then we'll preview some scenes from next week's show, so stay with us.
Looking for a little extra side dish? Let us know on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at The Feed Podcast.
Commuters have known this for some time, but over in the West Loop at the Ogilvy Transportation Center, there are more than 30 specialty vendors just waiting to feed you inside the Chicago French Market.
The market offers fresh ingredients for cooking at home, delicious grab-and-go options for any meal of the day, or even a simple picnic or office party.
My name is Felipe Prado. I am the general manager of Free Token, which means Fry Shack in Dutch. They're double fried, first of all, but also they're hand cut, hand peeled, they're blanched, the whole process, it's meticulously done. The sauces we all make in-house. Currently we have 22 different flavors. We make them all here by infusing different kinds of like truffles, basil, try to encourage people to try all the different sauces. They do love it.
Have you seen the lines, by the way, over at the Aloha Poke over there? And there's like the Aloha Poke, there's a line, and then there's Fumare Meats, and then there's, well, as you just heard the vendor, I mean, there's so much going on right now in that market. There's quite a lot to eat.
That's very exciting. I got to go over there and have some poke.
They've got two entrances, 131 North Clinton and 118 North Canal. And how about this? Covered parking is free for an hour with a $20 purchase.
Wow, that's great. They're open Monday to Saturday. You can also grab a bite and surf the internet since Wi-Fi is free. The Chicago French Market, a taste of Europe in the heart of the Midwest.
Hey, Rick, I got a question. Like, how would you describe a fish taco?
My favorite fish tacos are inspired by the fish tacos in Baja. Usually there, the fish is dipped in a like tempura-like batter and fried, and then they got all these delicious toppings that go on them. It's
Crema, there's cabbage.
Crema, cabbage, hot sauce.
Avocado?
They can be avocado. Some people put them, some people don't. But I have to say, it's the stuff that dreams are made out of.
They are. I've done that trip. The next best thing in the U.S. is in San Diego. It's called Oscar's Mexican Seafood. They started out as a food truck in Tijuana, became a tiny shack in Pacific Beach just north of San Diego. Now they've got 5 locations in and around the city, including the latest in Encinitas. Everything's fresh, never frozen, and they make their salsas and agua frescas fresh on site each day. More information, visit oscarsmexicanseafood.com. How crazy is it to think you can actually have your insurance company pay you to walk?
What?
Yes, they're going to pay you to walk. United Healthcare isn't crazy. They just want you to be healthy.
Oh, one of their new programs is called United Healthcare Motion, where members can earn more than $1,000 a year toward their health reimbursement account or health savings account just for walking.
I didn't even know I had a health savings account or a reimbursement account, but that would be a good thing. How do $0 copays sound?
Absolutely fabulous.
That would be nice. That's a nice advancement in society. Or pharmacy experience that offers more flexibility and less disruption.
Well, if your company works with United Healthcare, ask your friendly HR person about their programs, and if not, go tell them to switch today.
I'm going to tell mine. Call 877-233-2059 or go to uhc.com/benefits to get more information.
United Healthcare, a proud supporter of the Illinois Restaurant Association and committed to your good health.
Get the inside scoop by following us on Twitter @The Feed Podcast.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. We're live at the Chicago Podcast Festival this week from Beat Kitchen here in Roscoe Village, and joining us now in our final segment, the only guest we've ever had who has his own security detail, the Honorable Rahm Emanuel, 44th Mayor of the great city of Chicago. Mayor, welcome. Great to have you here.
Thank you. I'm going to tell you a funny story. I used to, when I would pull up, when I was chief of staff, you had a security detail, and every time I pull up and I get up to the front of the door, the security would pull off. And I'm like, so I finally said to the security, how come every time I just get to the front of the door and I open the door, you guys just pull off? They go, well, you're going in your home. I go, the people that want to kill me are in that house. I could use you in the house, just don't pull off that quick.
So I'm guessing John Kelly bugging you these days on Snapchat for some advice, asking for some help? No?
No.
Okay. I want to know about your background a little bit. For folks who don't know, you grew up in you must have had a serious food family because you have this crazy passion for food like I've never seen an elected official. I see you in restaurants all the time in Chicago.
If you had to eat kugel, you would like food, okay?
My mother-in-law loves that joke.
We just did a show on
kugel.
No, I am not. So my mother had a pattern to food. Well, first of all, let me back up, actually. My grandfather, who was the reason we came to Chicago in 1917, 100 years ago, one of the things he did is he was a truck driver for a meat company. Won Scandinavian Meats in a poker game. Lost it 2 years later in a poker game. Thank God he lost it because he was running it down. He was a horrible businessman. Got a job back as a driver. And in our house, when he lived with us, we had the freezer downstairs. And the freezer was the white paper with the black ink,
right.
skirt, sirloin, hamburger. And in our home was a standard schedule. So Saturday, Grandpa, dozen eggs, 3 skirt skates, and a loaf of bread. And you would eat that and then go to sleep for the next 5 hours.
Right.
And then everything like that. So I love eating. I love food. You don't want to eat Eastern European Jewish food that's just cooked in fat and baked until it's just totally unedible.
We have a very similar upbringing, which is why we're seeing pictures of the two of us eating at Haisu on the south side.
We do anything
in Pilsen,
outside.
right? You like ethnic, you like bold flavors,
I love
chilies.
I'm big on spices, and I love alive food. The greatest thing that ever happened then was a big part of my childhood was growing up in Israel and having Middle Eastern food and spicy food. That I love.
Super good.
And tell me about...
It's very similar to Oklahoma.
Oh,
There's
exactly.
Very similar. Barbecue tips. I was noticing the kosher section of the show. Very similar.
Absolutely.
My great aunt was kosher, also lived with us, and we were not kosher, and she would say, "Can I have that turkey sandwich?" She was pointing at the ham, but as long as you didn't call it ham but said it was turkey, you could make the sandwich. That is how kosher Aunt Giddy was. Nice. So I used to take, she lived in Albany Park. I used to take her when I came back from college on Friday nights for Shabbat. I would take her for dinner because I couldn't take her cooking anymore and I got sick. And we went to a Chinese restaurant and she would have like 67. Why was it 67? That was sweet and sour pork, but as long as you didn't say it, you could have
67.
it. That is how kosher Aunt Kitty was.
We haven't needed to use this, but I brought this just in case. We've put a little swear jar here. Swear jar for PR. We're going to help Puerto Rican
I would just like the
victims.
record to show.
So
I was in Congress. I was on TV shows defending 2 presidents and talking about the record. I've never had my 5-second FCC rule, okay? I've never.
Mazel tov.
In Congress, my mother-in-law used to call and said, "You did so well." I said, "No, you were just happy that you didn't have to explain to me in the club." What I said.
We listened to your podcast called Chicago Stories, which you do with regular Chicagoans. I listened to the one, of course, about Manny's. You talked to the Raskin family.
Yes.
And you were talking about your favorite sandwich, which is half pastrami, half corned beef on an onion Kaiser with 3 pickles and a potato latke.
Yes.
So I brought you your favorite sandwich. You didn't specify what kind of mustard, so I brought you deli mustard and yellow mustard.
You don't expect
And
me
3
to
pickles.
eat in front of my closest friends, do you?
No, but I want to just make sure you're taken care of and not...
This is very good. This is very important.
Did we do the right way? Right?
Well,
good?
yeah.
Okay.
It's half pastrami, half corned beef,
That's the
onion
sandwich.
Kaiser,
3 pickles,
a potato latke, 3 pickles.
Don't eat it right now because you may sleep for the next 5 hours.
There's no doubt. That's
So
right.
you've been a real advocate pushing the Chicago culinary scene beyond our borders. Tell me about the Beard Awards came here, but that seemed pretty easy.
Well,
right?
I'm glad you thought it was pretty easy. I don't remember you may. Nothing
you didn't
like
ask for
sitting
my
from
help.
the old No, first of all, I have been promoted. Let me say this. We have incredible talent here in the city of Chicago. And all the, everything that, the truth is, everything that Condé Nast and Bon Appetit has now recognized in the last 2 months, we all know who have gone out. And to Rick and all his colleagues throughout the city of Chicago, you could not get that recognition if it wasn't for the substance was great.
Of course.
Second, I went when I heard that that James Beard was going to leave New York. They wanted to take it on the road. It came down to San Francisco versus Chicago. I made them an offer they couldn't refuse. No, I then said to them, I said, you should come to the most American of American cities. I'm going to make sure it's a success. Just give me 1 year, and my goal is when you get on that plane, you'll say, I should have done this earlier.
So they re-upped.
And then we're 7 years they're going to be here. Right. And that, I think, started the process where people started to see, we are at a cross-section of cultures and a cross-section of the region, and you can have, obviously, the farm to table, but you can have flavors put together of different types of spices and different foods from different parts of the world and make a true melting pot. And that's what makes Chicago, they're artists. They don't just run restaurants, they're artists.
And when you get all of the food community, everybody, the chefs, the writers, all coming into Chicago, and they all have to eat, they want to explore the restaurants, it doesn't surprise me that it was 2 years, 3 years after Beard came here
Without a doubt.
that suddenly we are recognized for what we have here.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing the Beard.
No, thank you
Place.
for what you, you and I have talked about this, and that is, in my attempt, so we've gone from 39 million to 54 million visitors, creating 20,000 jobs in the hospitality industry in Chicago. I knew people came for business trips sporting events, big cultural things. I did not realize, even though I wanted to go after tourism, how big the culinary tourism industry is. Meaning people will travel to a city, go have a business meeting on Thursday night, stay the weekend and say, okay, I'm going to go to these 3 restaurants.
Yeah.
And it's a major driver of tourism, and the recognition is well-deserved because of what Chicago chefs have accomplished.
Because I get asked those questions from my colleagues. Hey, I'm going to be in Chicago for 3 days. You've got to pack my schedule, and I don't want to just have pizza and steak. And I'm like, we don't even need to eat those. You can go plenty of other places.
No, we just leave those for tourists.
Right.
That's what we don't
exactly. All right. Well, we want to give away another book to a lucky listener here, and so we're going to ask somebody to come up to the microphone who can successfully answer this question. First of all, we are going to ask which school did the mayor attend, either undergrad or graduate school? And here's a clue: for undergrad, the name of the school is actually 2 first names. The second of which is equivalent to 4800 North in Chicago. And here's a hint for where he got his master's in speech and communication. Gary Barnett, David Schwimmer, Stephen Colbert, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Charlton Heston. Does anybody know either his undergrad or graduate school? Yes, sir.
Sarah Lawrence.
Sarah Lawrence is where he went for undergrad. That's right, yeah.
Why?
I actually remember reading this.
Here's a clue. Joffrey?
That's right. I had a scholarship to the Joffrey Ballet School. I did not want to take it, and which is what you need to do to your Jewish mother, since she wants you to be a dancer. And I convinced her and my father that I would take dance at college, and if I really miss it, I can always just go right down to New York and pick up dance again. And the moment they drove off, those ballet shoes got thrown against the wall.
That was it.
Sucker! No.
So what is your name?
Parker, me.
Parker. Okay, so the mayor's playing for you. We're going to ask you 5 questions. You only need to get 4 right.
I got it? Or he
yeah,
does?
you're going to do it, but I have confidence. This is right up your alley. Okay. It's called Know Your
Mustard.
Mayor. We got the mustard. All right, so here we go. Which of your predecessors was essentially voted out of office as a result of a massive snowstorm? That is correct. In January 1979, a blizzard struck Chicago and effectively closed down the city, dropping a total of 35 inches of snow over a 2-day period. The city's slow response to the debilitating storm was publicly blamed on Mayor Michael Bilandic. He ordered Chicago...
Where was he?
Where was he? Was he on vacation? Yeah, I think he was.
Florida.
An avalanche of snow protest votes carried Jane Byrne to the most stunning political upset in Chicago history as the second biggest primary election turnout in 40 years, crushed the legendary Democratic political machine, and ended Bilandic's reign.
What was his commercial at the time? He was running a commercial with himself in running shorts. Don't do that while there's a winter storm and you have not. Big mistake.
Wow. Okay, number 2.
Do I get any extras on those?
Okay.
No. Extra pickle.
Sure do.
Extra
pickle. Go.
Okay, here we go. Richard J. Daley was the old man. Richard M. Daley was your predecessor. What does the M stand for? Matthew? Machiavelli, Michael, or Mark?
Michael.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's right. Richard Michael.
Thank you. You threw in such a Old Testament set of
like
selections there. I was really, wow.
Richard Michael Daley, elected mayor in 1989, was reelected 5 times.
Yeah.
Until declining to run for a 7th term. Yeah. At 22 years, he was the longest-serving Chicago mayor, surpassing the tenure of his father. Okay, number 3. In 1979, this mayor turned State Street between Wacker and Congress into a pedestrian mall, a commercial failure that was eventually corrected in the mid-90s. These days, this mayor is remembered every time you drive through the Circle Interchange.
Say that last thing again?
The mayor is remembered every time you drive through the Circle Interchange. She turned...
Yeah, Jane.
Jane Byrne.
I thought you said a different street. I thought you
no, it was State Street. Yes, okay. Jane Byrne famously moved into Cabrini Green for 3 weeks in 1981 to bring attention to the gang problem there. She hired the first African-American and female school superintendent in Chicago, was the first mayor to recognize the gay community. Okay, you're 3 for 3. Number 4.
Okay, this mayor served in World War II, attended Northwestern University Law School.
Harold Washington.
Oh, gosh, yes, it didn't take very long. Despite heavy bickering in the city council during his tenure, Harold Washington relished his role as Chicago's ambassador to the world, the main branch of the Chicago Public Library, City Colleges of Chicago, a cultural center in Bronzeville, even a city park have been renamed in Washington's honor.
But he had some tax issues, I think, back in the day. They were questioning. Anyway, you're 4 for 4. Here's the last one. Driving along 2200 South, you might think of this mayor. He was alderman of the 12th Ward and became mayor after the Great Depression. His proud status as an immigrant from Austria-Hungary, now the Czech Republic, helped propel him past Big Bill Thompson in the 1931 race.
Cermak.
Thus putting an end to the Republican Party's power in Chicago. Yes. While shaking hands with President-elect Franklin D. Roosevelt in Miami of 33, Anton Cermak
took the bullet,
was shot and mortally wounded when Giuseppe Zangara, who was attempting to assassinate Roosevelt, hit Cermak instead. At the hospital, Cermak reportedly uttered the line that is engraved on his tomb. Speaking to FDR, he said, allegedly, "I'm glad it was me instead of you." Following his death, 22nd Street, a major artery that traversed Cicero and Berwyn, areas with large Czech populations, was renamed Cermak Road.
2 facts.
Yes.
Fact 1, which is makes it very interesting, is you showed a great Vietnamese restaurant in Pilsen. Pilsen was always the center of the Czech community in Chicago, which is why you have that great new bar and restaurant there. Second is when I get elected, this you wouldn't know, Mayor Daley says, I'd like to have my desk. It's my father's desk. I said, absolutely. So I said to the archives, I said, just go get a desk, and we're going to give Mayor Daley his father's desk. So they brought up Mayor Anton Cermak's desk. Oh. That's the desk I have and I've used. His grandson, who still lives in the city of Chicago, heard of this, brings me a photo, the last photo they had, because he was not mayor that long.
Like 2 years maybe.
Yeah. And there's a picture of him with about 9, 10 white men standing behind him. You could not get away with that photo today as a mayor, but it's a photo, and it's a photo of the front of the desk, which is still there, and I have that photo in my office, and that is still my desk, and it's Anton Cermak's.
Well,
and there's a school in Prague named for Anton Cermak.
Thank you for that information. Wow. Very good. Okay.
Anything else useless you would like to know for 200 U.S. history?
We are going to give you a copy. We want to give you a copy of Food Lover's Guide to Chicago from Jennifer Olivera. Hopefully you can take this with you in your security detail car when you're on your way to the next restaurant.
I'm going to do an amazing plug for my podcast.
Chicago Stories.
I just interviewed a teacher from Dewey Elementary School in Englewood, Leah Gunter, who teaches 7th and 8th graders in Englewood Shakespeare. And she gets them in within a year, reading 3 or 4 years ahead of schedule of where they started. Wow. And it's an incredible success. This Sunday she's running the marathon, and I promised her pizza.
From?
Well, she gave me a place at Italy. I gave her near my neighborhood, but I'm now thinking of the new Italian pizza place.
Bonci.
For her class.
Go to Bonci. Yeah. And one last anecdote before I have to say goodbye to you. The first time I saw you out in public was I saw you go into Great Lake Pizza and literally pick up 5 pizzas to go in the middle of winter, and I knew you had to be a good guy for getting Great Lake Pizza.
On Sunday night, it's a Jewish
Sunday
meal.
night. Yep, that's right.
It's a
Chinese food night.
Yeah,
all right.
Exactly.
Mayor Rahm Emanuel, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Yeah.
Coming up next week, a seasonal challenge using one of our favorite fruits.
I try to keep it very simple. Use it raw, pickled, or even cooked ever so slightly.
The chef and owner of Belly Q and Urban Belly stops by the test kitchen to face off with its... Let's try that again.
Thank God it's not a live show.
I'm God. The chef and owner of Belly Q and Urban Belly stops by the test kitchen. Let's try it again. How about that? Thank you.
Give him a locky.
Where is it?
Why don't you do that?
Yeah, why don't you have the corned beef? Show me where it is.
Right here. Yeah, you do it.
Yeah.
The chef and owner of Belly Q and Urban Belly stops by the test. All right, I get 2 tries. The chef and owner of Belly Q and Urban Belly stops by the test kitchen to face in an apple challenge. We each get 5 extra ingredients to try to come up with an easy weeknight meal in 15 minutes or less. That's next week on this show. For all of you, I want to make sure that we also remember the people in Puerto Rico, Miami, and Houston. And if you get a chance, support them with some food or some contributions so they get their feet back on the ground.
Thank you. Thanks again.
You can always contact us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at The Feed Podcast. Check out our ingredient challenges, get recipes and other information about all of our shows by simply visiting our website, thefeedpodcast.com. And be sure to follow me at Rick_Bayless.
And I'm at Steve Dolinsky. Find us on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. Please rate the show, too. I produced today's show. Linnea Dominic's our intern. Max Dolinsky supervised today's music. Bureaucratic wrote and performed our theme song. And the Feed Podcast is edited by Matt Cunningham at Truthful Enthusiasm. Whether you're an individual or institution, get your story online with truthfulenthusiasm.com. A big thank you to the Chicago Podcast Festival for having us on. Thanks also to Lisa Critch for her culinary help, and to the Beat Kitchen for hosting us. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thank you.